The vast meeting chamber of the Galactic Council sparkled with light bouncing off crystalline walls. 53 species from across the Milky Way gathered here, each representative seated according to their biological needs. Some floated in anti-gravity bubbles filled with special gases. Others rested in pools of nutrient-rich liquids. The more humanoid species sat in chairs designed for their specific anatomies. Diplomat Tai Hyun entered the chamber, his blue skin looking paler than usual. The slender alien's four-fingered hands clutched a data pad so tightly that his knuckles had turned white. He had just returned from a 3-week observation mission to a newly discovered planet called Earth, and what he had seen there still made him shudder. "Honored representatives," Taehyun began, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. "I must report my findings on the species known as humans. I believe they represent a unique threat to galactic stability." High Counselor Jiwoo, with her iridescent scales and wise ancient eyes, leaned forward. "Proceed with your report, diplomat." Taehyun touched his datapad, and holographic images appeared in the center of the chamber. The images showed humans doing everyday activities, but to the assembled aliens, these activities looked bizarre and terrifying. Humans regularly consume substances that would be considered deadly toxins by our standards, Taehyun explained, showing footage of people drinking coffee and alcohol. They call these beverages and consume them for pleasure, social bonding, and to alter their mental states on purpose. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The concept of willingly ingesting toxins for enjoyment was incomprehensible to most species. "Present. But that is only the beginning," Taehyun continued. "Observe their recreational activities." The hologram shifted to show humans bungee jumping, skateboarding, and rock climbing. They deliberately placed themselves in dangerous situations that could result in serious injury or death. They call this fun and sports. A gray-skinned representative from the Mindful Collective raised a tentacle. "Perhaps they are simply unaware of the dangers?" "No," replied Taehyun. "They are fully aware. They calculate the risks and proceed anyway. Some even seek greater and greater dangers for what they call thrills." He switched the display again. Now it showed humans working in offices late at night, then collapsing into beds. Their work patterns defy biological sense. They push themselves to points of extreme fatigue, then enter a vulnerability state they call sleep, where they become completely defenseless for hours. During this time, they experience vivid hallucinations they call dreams, and consider this normal. The council. Chamber filled with murmurs of disbelief and concern. "Most disturbing of all," said Taehyun, "is their relationship with other species on their planet." The hologram showed people playing with dogs and cats, petting them and letting them sleep in their homes. They form emotional bonds with natural predators. They invite carnivorous hunters into their living spaces, feed them, and treat them as family members. They call them pets. By now, several council members were showing signs of distress. A representative from the methane-breathing Harmonious Federation had turned a sickly yellow color. Counselor Jiwoo raised her hand for silence. "What is your assessment of their technological development, Diplomat Taehyun?" "Advancing rapidly, High Counselor. They have already split the atom, reached their moon, and are developing artificial intelligence. At their current pace, they will achieve viable interstellar travel within 1 generation." "And their political structure?" asked another counselor. "Chaotic," replied Taehyun. "They remain divided into nation-states that frequently engage in conflict, yet somehow this conflict drives their innovation rather than destroying them." The chamber fell silent as the council members contemplated the implications. Humans weren't just strange, they were unpredictable, resilient, and apparently thrived on risk and chaos. "I recommend immediate quarantine of the Sol system," Taehyun concluded. "These humans are collectively insane by any galactic standard we possess." High Counselor Jiwoo studied the images of humans going about their daily lives, laughing, fighting, creating, destroying, and felt a chill run down her spine. "We need more information before making such a decision," she said finally. "I propose we form a special committee to study humans more thoroughly." One elderly council member, Min Su of the Ancient Observers, spoke up for the first time. His voice was barely above a whisper, but everyone listened. In my 5,000 years, I have seen many species rise and fall, but never have I encountered one that embraces chaos as these humans do. They do not just survive danger, they seek it out. This makes them fundamentally unpredictable. The vote was unanimous. A special committee would be formed to observe humanity more closely, but from a safe distance. No direct contact would be made until they better understood these bizarre creatures who drank poison for fun, welcomed predators into their homes, and seemed to thrive on behaviors that would destroy any rational species. As the council adjourned, Taehyun couldn't shake the memory of a human child he'd observed, who had fallen, injured herself, cried briefly, then gotten up to immediately try again the very thing that had hurt her. That, he thought, was what made humans truly terrifying. Remember to cite sources if using search results, respect copyright by avoiding long quotes, and use multiple tool calls for complex research questions. Scale tool usage, none for known info, offer to search for things that change yearly and always search for rapidly changing info. Senior researcher Minji adjusted the settings on her observation equipment and sighed. For the past 30 days, she had led the Special Human Investigation Committee appointed by the Galactic Council. Their mission was clear: determine just how dangerous humans really were. "Are you recording this?" she asked junior researcher Kyung-soo, who sat beside her in their cloaked ship hovering above a remote area humans called the Serengeti. "Yes, senior researcher," Kyung-soo replied, his green eyes wide with fascination. "I still cannot believe what we're seeing." Below them, 3 humans moved slowly across the dry landscape. They carried nothing but simple spears and water containers. Ahead of them ran a large 4-legged animal, an antelope. The humans didn't try to outrun it. They simply followed it. "They've been tracking this single animal for 5 hours now," Minji noted. Any other predator species would have given up or tried a different approach. The humans below continued their steady pace as the sun beat down on them. They were sweating profusely, another strange adaptation that both cooled them and prevented overheating. "The prey animal is getting tired," Kyung-soo observed, "but the humans look like they could continue all day." "They can," Minji said, "and they will. This is what humans call persistence hunting. They don't outrun their prey, they outlast it." 3 hours later, the antelope collapsed from exhaustion. The humans approached it calmly, almost respectfully, before killing it quickly. They said words over the fallen animal that the researchers couldn't hear. "That should be physically impossible," said biologist Hyunwoo, joining them at the observation window. "No intelligent species evolves to hunt this way. It's inefficient and requires tremendous energy expenditure." Yet they succeeded, Minji pointed out. "And look, they're sharing the food equally among their group. The behavioral implications are significant." The committee's findings only grew more disturbing over the following weeks. In another location, they observed humans deliberately exposing themselves to extreme heat in small enclosed rooms, then plunging into icy water, something they called sauna bathing that would kill most other species. Hyunwoo's sub-team reported on human medical practices with horror. They allow other humans to cut their bodies open, remove or repair internal organs, then sew them back together, while they are unconscious. Perhaps most concerning, Kyung-soo reported during their weekly meeting, is their pain response. Humans can continue functioning despite injuries that would incapacitate any rational species. "We observed one human continue running on a broken leg during something they call a marathon, a ritual where they run until exhaustion for no apparent reason except personal satisfaction." Minji compiled the data in her private quarters later that night. She couldn't sleep, not after what she had witnessed that day. Her team had observed a human dwelling where the humans kept smaller versions of predator animals called dogs and cats. "Computer, play observation recording T397 again," she requested. The screen flickered to life, showing a small human child falling and injuring its knee. The child cried, a normal response, but then a larger adult human simply cleaned the wound, placed a colorful adhesive on it, and sent the child back to play. Within minutes, the injured human was running again, the pain apparently forgotten. They, Don't avoid pain, Minji muttered to herself. They accept it as temporary and move past it. No wonder they've survived so many disasters. On the final day of their observation period, the committee witnessed something that cemented their recommendation to the council. Humans in a coastal settlement received warning of an approaching storm. Instead of evacuating, many stayed behind to help others. Some even ventured into dangerous waters to rescue strangers. They risked death to save others not related to them. Kyungsu said, his voice filled with wonder. Even members of other species. He pointed to humans rescuing animals from floodwaters. At the emergency council session a week later, Minji delivered her report with calm professionalism, despite the alarming nature of her findings. Humans are pursuit predators with unmatched endurance. They tolerate pain, poison, extreme temperatures, and danger beyond anything we consider rational. They form emotional bonds with other species, including natural predators. They deliberately seek risk and new experiences. She paused, looking at the concerned faces of the council members. But most importantly, they adapt incredibly fast. While most species evolve to fit their environment, humans change their environment to suit them. They've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters that should have ended their civilization multiple times. High Counselor Jiwoo leaned forward. Your recommendation, senior researcher? Minji took a deep breath. Humans are not merely unusual. They represent an entirely different evolutionary approach to intelligence. They are terrifying pursuit predators with inexplicable psychological resilience. My recommendation is to maintain the quarantine indefinitely. As the council members debated, an alert flashed on Minji's datapad. A human vessel had been detected crossing into Brightclaw territory. The humans were venturing into space sooner than predicted, and they were heading straight for the most aggressive species in the known galaxy. We may be too late, Minji whispered. Commander Do-hyun stared at the approaching alien ships through the main viewport of the Earth exploration vessel Pathfinder. What had begun as humanity's first mission beyond their solar system was about to become first contact with an alien species. His pulse quickened, but his voice remained steady as he addressed his crew. All stations report, he ordered. Engineering ready, said Chief Engineer Sung-ho from his station. Medical standing by, responded Dr. Gina. Lieutenant Ji-young at Tactical looked up from her console. Commander, I'm detecting weapons lock from the approaching vessels. Do-hyun frowned. This was not how he had imagined humanity's first meeting with alien life. Open all communication channels. Broadcast our first contact message in all frequencies. Before anyone could comply, a blinding light filled the bridge. When it faded, Do-hyun found himself no longer on the Pathfinder, but in a cold, metallic room with glaring lights. Around him stood his senior officers, looking as disoriented as he felt. Tall, reptilian creatures surrounded them. The aliens had scales that shifted color like oil on water, forearms ending in clawed hands, and vertical pupils in yellow eyes. One stepped forward, its scales turning a deep crimson. You have violated Brightclaw territory, it hissed in perfect English, clearly using some kind of translation technology. Your primitive vessel and crew are now property of the glorious Brightclaw Dominion. Over the next 3 days, the humans learned that the Brightclaws were feared throughout the galaxy for their cruelty and military might. They also learned that they were the first humans the Brightclaws had ever encountered. On the 4th day, the interrogations began. Commander Do-hyun was returned to his cell, his body aching from the Brightclaws' questioning. The cell block was quiet except for the occasional moans from other prisoners, not all of them human. The Brightclaws kept several alien species imprisoned here. They asked about Earth's defenses again, Do-hyun whispered to Lieutenant Ji-young in the adjacent cell. I told them nothing. Ji-young's face was bruised, but her eyes were clear and determined. Engineer Sung-ho was returned an hour ago. He was laughing when they brought him back. Laughing? Do-hyun asked, surprised. Yes. He said their torture devices tickled. I think it confused them completely. Do-hyun nodded slowly, a plan forming in his mind. The Brightclaws don't understand humans. We can use that. That night, as the ship's lighting dimmed to simulate night, Do-hyun gathered his crew using a series of taps on the cell walls, a code they had developed for just such emergencies. The message was simple. Gather anything that could be used as a tool or weapon. They didn't take my hairpins, whispered Dr. Gina from 2 cells down. They didn't think they were important. I still have my belt buckle, added Sungho, and I've been studying how their door mechanisms work. Within hours, Sungho had fashioned a primitive lockpick from Gina's hairpins and his own belt buckle. The locks on their cells were sophisticated, but the Bright Claws had never considered that someone would physically tamper with them rather than trying to hack them electronically. The first cell door slid open silently, then another and another. As the humans gathered in the corridor, they became aware of the other prisoners watching them with a mixture of fear and hope. Strange, tentacled beings, gaseous entities contained in special cells, and more humanoid. Creatures with features ranging from fur to feathers to extra limbs. We can't leave them, said Ji-young, looking at the aliens. Do-hyun hesitated only briefly before nodding. Free them all. We'll need the help anyway. Using improvised tools and weapons, the humans freed the other prisoners. Through a combination of gestures and the limited translation, help from a small owl-like alien named Kiku, they formed a plan. The Bright Claws had never faced a prison break before. No species had ever been crazy enough to try it. The escape was chaos. Alarms blared as the mixed group of escapees fought their way to the ship's hangar bay. The humans led the charge, using tactics that baffled the Bright Claws, splitting up when they should have stayed together, creating diversions, and taking risks no rational species would consider. Humans fight like they have nothing to lose, Kiku observed as they reached the hangar. We fight like we have everything to gain, corrected Do-hyun, helping the small alien into a transport ship. As multiple stolen ships blasted out of the Bright Claw vessel, news of the impossible escape spread quickly across subspace communications. The Galactic Council received the news with shock and alarm. Surveillance footage showed humans, a supposedly primitive species, organizing a mass prison break from the most secure facility in Bright Claw space. In her private chambers, High Counselor Ji-woo watched the footage with growing concern. The humans moved with purpose and unity she had never seen before. They adapted to situations instantly and seemed to thrive in the chaos of battle. They're not just physically resilient, she murmured. Their minds work differently. They see opportunities where others see only danger. An aide entered, bowing low. High Counselor, the Bright Claw ambassador demands an immediate audience. He claims the humans are a threat to galactic stability. Ji-woo closed the footage and stood up. Perhaps they are, she said quietly, but the question now is, are they a threat to us or to the Bright Claw's control? As the stolen ships disappeared into hyperspace, Commander Do-hyun knew they had just changed humanity's destiny forever. Earth was no longer unknown. For better or worse, humans had announced their presence to the galaxy, not with a diplomatic message, but with an act of defiance that would echo across the stars. Admiral Minjun of the Bright Claw Armada stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Fang. His scales shifted to a deep purple of concentration as he studied the holographic display of the small blue planet before him. Earth looked so insignificant, so vulnerable. Taking it would restore the honor his species had lost when those humans had escaped from their prison. Begin the attack sequence, he ordered. Show these primitives the might of the Bright Claw Dominion. 500 warships moved into position around Earth. By all military calculations, the invasion should have been over in hours. Humans had only recently ventured beyond their own solar system. They had no planetary defense grid, no battle fleets, no allies among the galactic powers. What the Bright Claws didn't understand was that humans had been preparing for this moment their entire history, not because they knew aliens existed, but because they had always fought each other. On Earth, old enemies became allies overnight. Nations that had pointed nuclear weapons at each other for decades now worked together against a common threat. The first wave of Bright Claw landing ships encountered something no simulation had predicted: unified human resistance. Admiral, something is wrong, reported the tactical officer, his scales turning a worried yellow. The humans are not surrendering. They are adapting. Minjun leaned forward. Explain. They've captured one of our scout ships and are already figuring out how to use our weapons. They're modifying them to work with their own technology. Impossible, Minjun hissed. Our systems are biologically keyed to Bright Claw users only. The tactical officer played a video feed on the main screen. It showed humans wearing what looked like cooking gloves covered in strips of Bright Claw skin. They were using these makeshift gloves to operate Bright Claw equipment. They're skinning our dead to use their hide as access keys, the officer said, his voice trembling. What kind of species thinks of such things? In a military base in what humans called South Korea, Engineer Sung-ho, one of the escapees from the Bright Claw prison ship, worked frantically alongside scientists from 20 nations. Having spent time on a Bright Claw vessel, he had insights into their technology that proved invaluable. Their ships are vulnerable to electromagnetic pulses, he explained, pointing to a diagram. Their scales are sensitive to rapid temperature changes, and most importantly, they think in straight lines. They expect us to either flee or fight head-on. Then we'll do neither, said General Yunha, her face grim with determination. We'll do what humans do best, adapt and surprise. The next Bright Claw landing force found itself caught in massive electromagnetic nets that disabled their ship's systems. When ground troops deployed, they were met not with direct military engagement, but with guerrilla tactics. Humans would strike, then disappear into tunnel systems or buildings, only to emerge elsewhere. Most confusing to the Bright Claws was the human willingness to sacrifice. Soldiers would draw fire to allow civilians to escape. Civilians would create diversions to help soldiers set traps. To the Bright Claws, who valued self-preservation above all, this behavior was incomprehensible. On the Eternal Fang, Admiral Minjun received increasingly desperate reports. The humans have modified our disruptors to work with their primitive projectile. Weapons, one officer reported. They're calling them space shotguns. Another added, they're using weather as a weapon, Admiral. They've seeded clouds above our landing zones to create lightning storms that interfere with our sensors. And worst of all, said his second-in-command, they're not fighting like a collective. Each small group operates independently, adapting to local conditions. We can't predict their strategy because they don't have just one. In the Galactic Council chambers, representatives watched the conflict with growing concern. What had begun as a simple punitive action by the Bright Claws had become a demonstration of human adaptability and tenacity that frightened many Council species. We cannot join against the humans, argued Representative Jihye passionately. Their creativity could benefit the entire galaxy if properly channeled. Nor can we ignore them, countered Representative Youngsu. They've now proven they can adapt and use Bright Claw technology. What's to stop them from doing the same with ours? After 3 Earth months of fighting, the Bright Claw Armada faced something it had never experienced in 1,000 years of military campaigns: defeat. Human forces had not only repelled the invasion, but had captured enough Bright Claw ships to begin mounting counterattacks. Admiral Minjun stood before his war council, his scales a dull grey of defeat. We underestimated them, he admitted. They don't fight like any species we've encountered. They don't value their lives the way we do, yet they value each individual life intensely. They take risks no rational species would consider, yet their strategies show deep planning. What do we do now, Admiral? Asked one of his few remaining captains. Minjun stared at the holographic display showing the advancing human ships. They had painted their captured Bright Claw vessels with colorful patterns and symbols. Another incomprehensible human behavior. We retreat, he said finally, and we warn everyone in our path. Beware the humans. They are not just physically dangerous. Their minds work in ways we cannot predict. They are all, by any rational standard, completely insane. As the remains of the Bright Claw fleet fled the Sol system, Earth celebrated its first victory as a unified planet. But in the Galactic Council, debate raged over what to do about humanity. A species that had just announced its presence on the galactic stage not with diplomacy, but with an unexpected victory over one of the galaxy's most feared military powers. The Ski. Great Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from all 53 member species filled their designated areas, with additional observers lining the upper galleries. Today was historic, the first time human representatives would address the council directly. Ambassador Jae-hyun walked calmly into the chamber, followed by his small team. He showed none of the awe that most new species displayed when first entering. The ancient hall with its soaring crystal dome that revealed the star-filled space beyond. Instead, he looked around with simple curiosity, even smiling slightly at some of the more unusual alien forms. High Counselor Ji-woo rose from her seat, her iridescent scales catching the light. Ambassador Jae-hyun of Earth, you stand before the oldest governing body in the known galaxy. Your species has caused considerable disruption in recent cycles. We tend to do that, Jae-hyun replied with a small smile. I understand we're not what you expected. You defeated the Brightclaw Dominion, rumbled Elder Counselor Somin, his massive stone-like body shifting forward, a species that has terrorized this galaxy for 3,000 years. And you did so with technology far less advanced than theirs. Jae-hyun nodded. Necessity is the mother of invention, as we say on Earth. What we wish to understand, continued Ji-woo, is what humanity wants now. You have captured advanced technology. You have proven your military capabilities. Many council members fear you will become the new Brightclaws, or worse. A murmur of agreement spread through the chamber. Reports of human behavior during the war had spread throughout the galaxy, creating both fear and fascination. Stories told of humans continuing to fight despite serious injuries, of their unpredictable tactics, and most disturbing of all, their ability to rapidly adapt alien technology to their own purposes. Jae-hyun looked around the chamber calmly before speaking. High Counselor, respected representatives, I understand your concerns. From your perspective, humans must seem strange, insane. Is the word many use? Interjected a floating, gas-filled representative from the Consciousness Collective. Perhaps by your standards, Jae-hyun acknowledged with a nod. What you call madness, we call innovation. Humans take risks because that's how we learn and grow. We feel deeply, fight fiercely, and yes, we do things other species find strange. He stepped forward, activating a holographic display that showed scenes from Earth. Children playing, scientists working, artists creating, people helping each other after natural disasters. But we are not conquerors by nature. We defend ourselves vigorously when threatened, as the Brightclaws discovered. But what we truly excel at is creating, adapting, and connecting. Young Counselor Jinwoo, representing one of the newer species in the council, leaned forward with interest. What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador? A new approach to galactic governance, Jae-hyun replied, one based on cooperation through diversity rather than enforced similarity. The current council works on consensus, which is admirable, but it also tends to favor the status quo and species that think alike. Outraged murmurs filled the chamber, but Jae-hyun continued undeterred. The Brightclaws were contained but never truly addressed, because they were predictable. Dangerous, yes, but they operated in ways you understood. Humanity is different not because we're smarter or stronger, but because we approach problems from thousands of different angles simultaneously. And this is supposed to reassure us? Asked Elder Somin skeptically. It should, Jae-hyun said firmly, because we want to share this gift, not use it against you. Imagine a galaxy where problems are solved not just by careful consensus, but by creative collaboration between truly different minds. To everyone's surprise, several of the younger council species indicated their support. They had watched humans with fascination rather than fear, seeing potential where the older species saw only chaos. I move that we accept humanity as provisional. Members of the council, said Counselor Jinwoo, rising from his seat. Their perspective could be valuable, especially as we face challenges that our traditional approaches have failed to solve. The debate raged for hours, but in the end a narrow majority voted to accept humans as observers with limited council privileges, far more than most new species received. It was a beginning. 5 cycles later, Ambassador Jae-hyun stood in the council gardens, watching a remarkable sight. Young aliens from a dozen different species were playing a human game called tag, running and laughing. Nearby, their parents and guardians watched with expressions ranging from horror to cautious approval. They adapt quickly, the young ones, said High Counselor Jiwoo, appearing beside him. Already I hear phrases like, think like a human, spreading through our educational centers. It means to approach a problem in a new way, Jaehyun smiled. And the older council members? They remain concerned, Jiwoo admitted. But even they cannot deny the results. The Joint Human Melnar project solved the Corridor 9 energy crisis. The Human-Vox Medical Exchange has created treatments for diseases we thought incurable. A young alien child ran up to Jaehyun, tagged him with one of its appendages, then darted away, giggling. Without hesitation, Jaehyun gave chase, much to the delight of the watching children. Jiwoo watched, her eyes thoughtful. Is it true what you told the child who asked why humans take risks? Jaehyun paused in his play. What did I say? That the best things in life lie just beyond our comfort zones. Ah yes, Jaehyun nodded. An old human saying, do you disagree? Jiwoo's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a warm gold, a sign of acceptance in her species. I am beginning to see wisdom in it. My own children now ask to try new foods, to visit other worlds. They say they want to be brave like humans. In the distance, the spires of the Galactic Council headquarters gleamed in the light of 2 setting suns. Already the building was changing, with new wings being added to accommodate different biological needs and working styles. We're still crazy by your standards, Jaehyun said with a smile. Yes, agreed Jiwoo, but perhaps the galaxy needed a little madness. There is a new phrase spreading even among the elder species now, crazy like a human. It has become, strangely enough, a compliment. As night fell on the council world, hundreds of species looked up at the same stars with new eyes. The galaxy was changing, one crazy human idea at a time,